Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of, I'm just going to call it Theology and Karate. I think that's like the only title I can think of for this. But, that's a pretty good day here. Anyway, the scripture I wanted to read for us today comes from Hebrews 5, verse 12 to 14. And it says, "For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic principles of God's revelation. You need milk, not solid food. And everyone who lives on milk is inexperienced with the message about righteousness, because he is an infant. But solid food is for the mature, for those whose senses have been trained to distinguish between good and evil." Now, what that original message is talking about is it is a message of preaching against immaturity and basically God's word. So there's always the basic stuff, and then there's the more complex stuff. And there's those, especially when there's a new believer, there's always a sense of that. In this case, they're using the analogy of an infant that they only drink milk. They're only fed the basic things before they can be tackled and given the more complex stuff. Like, for example, the basic thing would be that Jesus died for our sins. But then a more complex matter that in this case would be solid food or meat, as Paul describes it, is in the case of explaining the Trinity. Let's say that. Because, for a new believer, if they're asked, explain what the Trinity is, most likely they're not going to know what that means. But there's always the more simple issues, like how Jesus is the Messiah through, you can just say Messiah prophecies, and then a more complex matter is explaining those in more egregious detail. And then there's also stuff like, let's just say, there's a simple thing of grace. That grace is pretty much a core concept of Christianity, but then if we want to go into the extent of all that comes from grace, that can easily go from a simple thing, which is milk, to a more complex issue, which would be solid food. And so it's also warned, as in verse 12 said, about teachers, that if you're teaching this, you're going to need to be fed solid food. You're going to need to know this more complex stuff, because if you only revolve around the basics, then it's going to be way harder to get new people into Christianity. And it's also going to be harder to actually answer a lot of deeper questions. Now, to be fair, there's some questions that can't really be answered until we die, and there's a lot of stuff that can't be known for sure, because as we know, God actually keeps his own secrets for us, because let's be honest, we simply don't need to know it. but then there's just a distinction between stuff that's very simple, which is milk, and then there's stuff that's more complex, more very theologically based, and heck, a lot of denominations kind of clash over a lot of the stuff that can be described with that. But then, as long as the believers, especially as a new believer, old believer, you know what the basic stuff is. And then you gradually get to solid food. But if you're still always stuck in that milk stage, then, I hate to say it, but it's going to take a long time to actually get back up, or to get to a more solid foundation, I guess would be the better word to say it. Because then the more solid you get to, you get the meat, you get solid food, but then on top of the meat you get from that, you also get fruits, which are 9 different fruits of the Spirit. But that can be for a whole nother day. And by the way, I am not a preacher. I do not have a preaching license, and this is not intended to be a sermon. This is just a little bit of theological stuff. Oh, and then also another thing I noticed about the camera is that no matter which way I face it, it's mirrored. So when I throw this, it might look like I'm throwing with my right arm, but this is actually my left. So anyone who's watching and get confused on the placement, you can be to your left side, but most of the time it's to your right side, so just remember this is a mirror. But yeah, I hope that theological message made a little bit of sense, that you start with milk and then you gradually work your way up to more topics, and that's what the whole point of teachers is for, is that they will teach the more complex topics gradually, not all at once. Because if it's all at once, then you're going to be confused. And there might be sometimes they do say all at once, but then most likely, if it's a one-on-one situation, they're going to gradually get it up, so that way you're not overflowed with information and stress and all this other stuff. But yeah, you start with milk, then you get solid food, and that forms into the meat, that juicy filet mignon, and then you get some 9 different fruits, of the spirit, whichever ones you want. Get you a Granny Smith apple, a ripe banana, some fresh strawberries from picking season, especially down here at the south. I'm pretty sure picking season actually just ended a while back. Anyway, sorry for that lull. That's my attempt at making jokes. Okay, so you might be wondering, what in the world does that have to do with what I'm about to teach? Well, as you might have seen from the first part, if you haven't seen the first part, that's okay. But from the first part I did of this theology and karate, I taught the very basic stuff, which, in case you haven't seen it, this is basically what it was, but if you have seen it, this is a review, is there's the jab, where I explained that you also lean in a little for the jab. You might notice that my legs, like on my feet, they stay in the same places, like they don't move or anything, but it's just a little bit of a lunge. And also another important note, I think I mentioned this in part 1, is to try to keep your legs bent. Because if you keep your legs straight, then if someone hits you, you have an easier chance of falling over or taking more impact. If you bend it, you bend your legs, you get more foundation. So there's a jab, and then there's cross, where with a cross, you actually, with your back leg, you'll notice that my back foot turns out. My heel turns out. And so that way when I'm putting straight, I am twisting more, causing more power and more effort. And always remember to snap back. Like, because if you hold out long enough, like you hold out like this in the middle of a fight, then your opponent can easily hit you in the head. So snap back, and then you're right back in your guard. And then you do a hook, where with your front leg this time, not with your front leg, you are dragging your heel. You're getting your heel out with the front leg as you throw the hook. Make sure the hook is kind of like right where the jab and the cross landed. So that way, because I've seen a lot of people do this, like they do that. But this is not a hook, because even though it looks like a slug, it's not going to be that reliable, because as I just said, if you leave it out like that, then your opponent can have an easier opening to hit you. So with a hook, it's an effort on control. So you hook like towards like the middle, and in reality, if your opponent's in front of you, this will be hitting like right at their temple, or like, you know, behind their head. If they hit right there, that's pretty much like a game over spot, by the way. And then the last one is an uppercut. So similar with the cross, where you're turning your heel out, with an uppercut, you start at the guard and you do that. Because a lot of times I'll also see people misconcept this one, where it's like that, or like whoo, like that, like almost like an anime fight move, just like pure more combat Street Fighter looking crap. Like that's not what this is. It's just like that, because you're aiming right at their chin, like right here, and boom, that's it. It's just, it doesn't look like much, but it's very effective. It can be very effective. And so then I went with the kicks, where there's the front kick, where, as shown, it's a front kick. And so you basically hold out. You can do this for front and back. You hold it out, kick. So you basically make sure you get like your knee up, kick. And so then when you do it fully fast, it's a snap, and you're kicking right at the torso. And then I went with a side kick, where with this one, you pick it up, you chamber it to your chest, like that. And so the bottom of your foot is basically driving itself into their torso. And then you had a round kick, where you pick it up, but in this case, you're getting your toes and the front of your foot out, and so you're snapping it, and this is going to be hitting them at their side. And for more power, you can twist your hips a bit more, and you also do a back leg with this too. If you actually step out, it gives more power to hit your opponent in their side. And the last one was a hook kick, where it's the same type of chamber as a side kick, but instead, almost like a boomerang, it's coming around. And yeah, these were the eight of them, and there's a little bit more detail of it in the other part. But for this one, I wanted to do something where, with that message, that was the basic stuff. That was the milk of this lesson, of that whole lesson. And now we're gonna gradually get up to some solid meat. Basically, we're not in like the well done brisket area yet. We're more in like a rare cooked chicken sort of area. So For this one, we're going to work on combos. So we have something that I go for my karate called the Crazy 8. But I'm not going to show you all the Crazy 8s because some of them can get mixed up a little bit. But for the most part, we use those 4 punches to make combos. So for this first one, we'll do jab, jab, cross. Jab, jab, cross. And so you notice I'm lunging a little bit with the jabs, and then crossing. And one thing you'll see a lot of this used with is with the jabs, you let you move forward with the jabs, and then step back and cross, and then step back. So jab, jab, cross. You can do it however you want, because most of the time you'll see it where it's done jab, jab, cross, where you're stepping forward. But you very well could do it in place. You just have to lunge a little. Because when you do step forward, you're using that lunge to step yourself forward a little bit while you're staying in place. You're just doing a little bit of a lunge attack from where you're at. Each of them are effective depending on who you're fighting and what scenario you're in. So yeah, it's just jab, jab, cross is what that one is. Wow, there's lots of sweat going on here. Okay, so that was the first one. Next one is jab, cross, hook. Jab, cross, hook. And as the first one, you can step in with the jab if you want to, but the jab is pretty much the only one you step in with. There's just jab, cross, hook. And so then, if you just start out slow with it, and then eventually you can snap it more like this and do it more effectively. And then you get back in your guard. Oh, and that's another thing, I think I said this in the first part, but make sure you always go back into your guard, or covers your face and your torso. And then if you're sparring or fighting someone, you get your front arm out a little bit more. That's just like a fun tip for you. That if you're fighting someone, do this, because in that way, if you throw something immediately with your front hand, the back hand's already there to protect. So jab, cross, hook. So the first two we just showed was jab, jab, cross, and jab, cross, hook. And if you're stepping forward, make sure you get back. Okay, then the next one will be cross, hook, cross. So cross, hook, cross. And make sure always to move your hips and your legs. As you probably saw, and as I demonstrated earlier, with a cross you get your leg out, and hook you get your leg out. So, to make sure you always get that out to get the full power behind this attack. And then we will have the opposite of that, which is hook, cross, hook. Hook, cross, hook. Okay, so that's 4 of them, and then you might be wondering, where's the uppercut? Well, here's the uppercut for you. So, cross, hook, uppercut. Cross, hook, uppercut. Okay, so to review that, we have jab, jab, cross, jab, cross, hook, cross, hook, cross, hook, cross, hook, cross, hook, uppercut. And then another one for you, you can always do this one. This one's like a little more complicated, but still fun to do, is jab, uppercut, cross, and you use it with the same hand with jab and uppercut. The jab, immediately snap it back, and then uppercut, cross. So jab, uppercut, cross. Yeah, and so that is just another one you can do. So the whole point is that all 4 of those punches you can make in some form of combo. And then we can use the kicks. We can use the kicks and attach that to the punches. And this one is going to be pretty fun. Oh, there's a lizard over there. Okay, so we have the first one, which we're going to do the 4 main combos. So there's jab, jab, cross, hook, jab, cross, hook, uppercut. So when I add these kicks, you'll add one of those each time. So in this case, the first one I'm going to do is jab, and then back leg round kick. The jab, back leg round kick. And sit down front, and then step back. The jab, round kick. Jab, round kick. So I'm sorry, I'm hitting my eyes a lot. There's a lot of sweat coming in on me. Yeah, and so it's jab, and then the back leg. So basically the opposite leg of what I hit my punch with, a round kick. And so for this one, as I said earlier, you can get your foot out a little bit, and then, boom, jab, jab, kick,
Okay, so that's the first one, and then as I said, we're adding a punch each time. So then the next one will be jab, cross. And then, but then we're doing it to where we're hitting a leg with the opposite arm we ended with. So since I ended on my right side with the cross, I'm gonna use my left leg, or in this case, or we're mirrored, the front leg, either or. So in this case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch. What that means is, look at my leg placement. So this leg's in front, this one's in back. And so now they're not beside each other, but the left one's a little bit more back than the right one is. So they basically switch to where this one that was in the back is a little bit more in the front now. And so now I'll go for a round kick on this side. Okay, so, and to show it again, jab, cross, switch. So now the leg that used to be in the front is in the back, and we're kicking it and then putting it in front again. Jab, cross, switch. Jab, cross, switch. Okay, now for the third one, we're gonna add the jab, cross, hook. Jab, cross, hook. And as I said, we're kicking with the opposite of the hand we ended on. So since I ended it with this one with the hook, then we step out and we kick. We round kick them at the side. Jab, cross, hook. Round kick. Jab, cross, hook. Round kick. Okay? And then the final one, jab, cross, hook, uppercut, and then switch, round kick. So jab, cross, hook, uppercut, round kick. Once again, jab, cross, hook, uppercut, round kick. Make sure to always stretch out your arms each time of how I've been saying for this whole lesson. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, switch, round kick. So, to review what we learned for the kicks was jab, and then step out, throw back leg, round kick. Then jab, cross, switch, round kick for the back leg round kick. And then jab, cross, hook. Wait, no, see, there we go. It's easy to mess up these things. Jab, cross, hook, step out, round kick. And then jab, cross, hook, uppercut, switch, round kick. And so that is how some of the combos are. There's a lot of other combinations, so you can use those 4 kicks and those 4 punches and see what you can come up with. It'll be very creative. And then, bonus one, I can always go in more on this one if I do a 3rd episode or a future episode. But there is one more, there's 2 more things I want to show. The first one is, one's a punch and one's a kick. First up, we have the ridge hand. So for this one, you will probably have your hands open instead of like that. You'll have your hands open. And I'm gonna do my back arm for this one. It's called a ridge hand. It's gonna look like this. Or if I do for the front arm. And so in slow motion, this is what I did. I reached out, and my arm is not in a fist, it's in a chop. So I reach my arm out, and then I bend it. And this is basically, if you realize, this is the same movement as a hook kick would do. And so instead you're using the arms, and so this is what a ridge hand will be. And so this basically is the boomerang effect. And so what this would do, just like how the hook kick will hit someone in the torso, then like come back easily, but it could also hit around their side and hook them around, either or, depending on height and who you're fighting and what style is. With a ridge hand, you can get up around the back of their head and hit them out, or you can use it as a method to choke someone out, like if you were to do that, but that's not the most common thing. But for the most part, it's really just another easy way to try to hit them kind of at a distance, in a way they're probably not going to expect at first. And then the last one I want to show is a back kick. This one will actually be kind of fun. So for this one, you look behind, and you basically almost look like an owl, where now I am facing you from behind. So my feet are still the same, like my leg placement is still the same. I look, and it's okay, your front leg goes to the back a little bit. That's actually a good thing if it does, because you might not be able to do it otherwise. But anyway, the legs are in the same area though. The legs do not move for this first part, aside from, as I said, if your heels move. So I look behind, and now I'm looking over my shoulder, and I'm looking back at you. So now I will take this leg that was originally in the back, and like that. And so if I do it fast, it looks like this. Or this. There we go. Yeah, so once again in slow motion, normal stance, the legs bent, look back, so now I'm looking back here, but then the whole thing is I'm doing a 360 with my head. So back, my torso's towards the back now, my head is facing back to the front. And so now when I'm looking at my target again, I release the back leg. This will be a back leg kick. Like that. And so you can do many combos with these two moves, such as jab, cross, rich hand, side kick, back kick. There we go, something like that. Or you could do jab, cross, hook, uppercut, rich hand, other rich hand, hook kick, back kick. You can do a lot of different methods for this. It just depends on what floats your boat. But you know, when you're in a fight, you can use any of these combinations with themselves, and it probably could work. So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to get a little tired this week. So, I hope you enjoyed this, our episode of Theology and Karate. And no, I do not script these. Part of this lesson I actually come up with on the fly. But, yeah. I'm Complex Lid. This has been Theology and Karate episode 2. And so I hope you enjoyed the lesson, or both parts of the lesson, the theology lesson and the karate lesson. And I'll see you guys on the other side. Have a blessed rest of your day. Jesus loves you guys. See ya.